do what we always do. Let's just ask the Spirit of God to speak to us today. Just quietly where you are, do that. I'm going to do that. We're going to jump into some truth. Father, we're so optimistic about what lies ahead this year. Not because we know the future, but we know the one who does. And so we trust you fully. We declare that to you at the beginning of 2022, that, Lord, what comes our way, we will trust and know that you have sifted it through your hands and that you will weave it together for our own good. And, so we just walk by faith, Father. We will continue to raise a good hallelujah, a standard, a banner that says we live and breathe underneath the kingdom of heaven, and we will trust that you alone are able to make ways where there are no ways, and that truly, if there is hope in this world at all, it's found in you. So as we open up your word now and we study through the Proverbs, would you speak to us? Would you encourage us? And would you challenge us, comfort us, convict us, all of the things that the Spirit of God desires to do in our life? On your behalf, Father, would you let that be so? And so keep us alert and attentive this day, and our hearts ready to receive your word. And we ask it in Christ's name. Amen. Man, we launched into a brand new series the Sunday after Christmas. It was still in 2021, but it gave us a jump start on everything that we're about. And I'm excited about it. It's we're calling it Better You, Better Life. And the reality of that is pregnant with all sorts of great possibilities, right? Now, we say better you, that means that there's less of you. In order for us to get better, we really have to do more dying of self, right? That's kind of what has to happen. I mean, we just can't pull ourselves up by our bootstrap and be better. We have to align ourselves with what God has for us. So when I say better life, better you, better life, this isn't one of those, live your best life now and the gospel's all about you. The gospel's all about Him redeeming us so that we could reflect His glory and we could praise His name. But in the process of that, He loves to lavish on us great stuff. And so I've kind of deemed this in my own life personally as a year of progress, right? It's a year of growth. Listen, I'm that guy that wants, I want perfection and I want it right now. I want to be good at something as soon as I make my decision. I want to do it, but it's not going to be that way. Nothing's that way, right? There has to be progress. The problem with so many of my friends that are struggling with different things is this concept of progress. They feel stuck, right? Some of you may feel stuck right now. Like I just feel like I'm stuck right here. I can't figure out how to go, where to go, how to get around this thing. And so you're going to live, if you're not careful, another year of just kind of paralysis, stuck in a place of mediocrity. And I want more for you than that. And more importantly than what I want, God desires more for you than that. And so the best thing that we can do is develop hope. And the thing that really propels hope and makes it larger and more real life is progress, right? When you take progress away from someone, you remove hope. And when you remove hope from someone, it is a playground for Satan to bring in all sorts of anxiety and depression and everything else that you can imagine. He loves to do that. So we want to focus not on what's so far away. We just want to focus on my next step, right? What's my next best step? Right? And as we do that and we trust God right there, because He doesn't always show us the future, right? That's the story of Joseph. Scott and I were talking about Joseph earlier today, right? Joseph didn't know the end game. He just knew that if he just kept taking that step, God was going to get him to this place that he had. And that's all that we can choose to do. So we're looking for a year of progress because that brings hope. Now, there's 7 areas that we kind of talk about that we manage in our life, right? We manage our faith in a sense, right? I mean, I can be as holy as I choose to be, right? I mean, that's the truth. Because He tells us in the Scriptures, be ye holy for I am holy. The problem about being holy is that I have to put the old Randy to death. And that's a daily deal. And apparently the old Randy's pretty strong because no matter how many times I put a chokehold on him and punch him in the mouth and try to bury him and hide him and lock him into something, he'll find his way out. give the right circumstances, and I mean, even the Tamster can bring him out, right? And I can go off in a hurry, right? So those are issues that we have to deal with. But a better faith, a more mature individual, a more holy individual, that's a better life. And so we talk about that. We talked about family. Right? I don't get to choose my family, but I do get to choose how I respond to my family and how I react to my family. And we have those relationships. And that's the place that God planted me. Right? He appointed, He's got times and places in which we should live and the tribes in which we come from. My family's my family, God ordained. I didn't get to pick that. And so I'm going to recognize that God's using that dynamic in my life. Right, and so we talk about that. Now those two we've already talked about. We're going to talk today about friendships. But these are the 7 areas that we run in: faith, family, friends. Right, field. That's that area where we work or have our passion. Whether it's our side job, our hustle job, our real job, whether it's a stay-at-home, college student, whatever that is. There's that area. And then there's the area of fitness, taking better care of ourselves body. It is, after all, according to the Scriptures, the temple of the living God. And Paul says there is some profit in just exercise, right? So we should worry about that. And we should worry about finance. Not worry, but you know what I'm saying? We focus on finance and talk about what we do because we ought to be good stewards of these things that God's entrusted to us. And along the way, life's meant to be enjoyed, and so there should be some fun that goes along with it. So these are the 7 areas that we're just kind of wandering through. Let me tell you what we're doing. We are evaluating where we are in those 7 areas, right? If you don't know where you are, then you don't know where you're going, right? And where you are, as we said, I've said almost every Sunday, where you are isn't who you are. Sometimes we think where we are is who we are, right? So you find yourselves out of work. Well, I'm a loser. No, that's just where you are right now. That's you don't have a job, right? Or I've got this addiction. Okay, well, be honest and say that's what I've got. That doesn't define who you are. It's just where you are. You get to choose who you are, right? And so it's important that we understand those things. So we take an honest look. This isn't the time to, make yourself look. This isn't Facebook and all the other social media where you make yourself look 10 times better than you are, right? This is real life. So really, in real life, you should analyze, where's my faith? Where am I in my relationship with God? Where am I in my relationship with my family? Where am I in my relationship with my friends, which we're going to do today? Then we ought to be able to explore where we want to go. Where would I like to be in my faith, right? We reverse engineer this thing. So if I go, well, this is where I want to be, then I can back up and go, what steps do I need to take in order to be there, right? I want to know more about the Bible. Okay, great. That's a great where I want to be. So what are you going to do? Maybe you should get a reading plan and start reading. Maybe you should figure out what you want to do. See, this is how better you means a better life. This is how it happens, right? And so we're going to explore where we want to go, and that's on you. We're not doing that here. I'm just giving you a framework, and then you're going to go home, I hope, having taken some notes and said, okay, now where do I want to go? Where am I? Where do I want to go? And then the third thing is that we're doing is engaging in setting progress goals, right? Steps or whatever. Now, having said all of that, we're asking ourselves this question in these 7 areas. And here's the question. It's a simple question. It's a powerful question. How can I let this get better? That's what we're asking. So today we're asking the question, how can I let my friendships get better? How can I in the area of my friends, how can I let that get better? Don't say, what can my friends do to make this better? That's not the issue, right? That's the easy thing. The question, that's why we phrase it like we do, how can I let this get better, puts the brunt of everything back onto you. What can I do to make this better? Now, so today we're talking about friendships. Now, friendships, we get to choose. Family, we don't get to choose. Friendships, we get to choose, right? There was an adage that, I've been saying, I'm sure I didn't invent it, but I've been saying it since I was probably 21. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future, right? You are who you hang around. I mean, that's true statistically. It's true spiritually, emotionally, every way you can imagine, you morph into who you hang around, right? So knowing that means that we ought to take stock in who our friends are. The hardest thing to do in friendship is to be proactive. Most people sit around going, nobody ever invites me over. Well, nobody ever invites me to go anywhere, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I listen to that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, and now you feel like you're a parent. Well, did you invite them over? Well, no. Well, why don't you, every friendship I've ever had, you have to pursue, right? Because here's the thing, the good friends, see, it's like, Not that we rate them like that, but the good friends are already taken, right? The rest are just either, handicap or whatever. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's kind of like parking spaces, right? Never mind. You'll get that one later. The good ones are either taken or they're anyway. Let's move on. Let's just move on. But here's the thing: the friends that you want to have, they probably are pretty comfortable with the friendships they have. So you can either wait and be and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Or you can go, hey, I need a new set of friends, or I need a few new friends. Well, then just start inviting people to do something with that you think you'd like to hang out with. Now, this is free advice. I'm just telling you where we are. We have to be intentional and directional in this thing called friendship. Now, we all kind of see life through our own past. And so what happens is, depending on where you came from, how many friendships you've had that have been hurt or whatever, some of us, like, man, I'm just that sucker. I let everybody in, And then I think, man, I've got some losers for a friend. Not looking at any of y'all. I'm just saying, right? You let some people in and you go, man, this is a lot of work, right? And then some of you have gone through some tough times. You're just at this point, you're like paranoid. I ain't letting anybody in. It's going to be us four and no more, and that's it. I'm done with that stuff because it hurts too bad, right? I mean, those are kind of the things that we do. And so what we need to do is begin to discern, really, where are we in that relationship, right? Where do we want to be in that? You can't just live a paranoid life, but you can't just embrace everybody either. There's a measure. Even Jesus did that. In John, it says, and many were entrusting themselves to him. But he on his part was not entrusting himself to him, for he knew the hearts of all men. Now, we don't know the hearts of all men, but there is a level of discernment that we should get. Just because somebody wants to be in our circle of friendships doesn't mean that we ought to let them in, right? So we're going to talk about these kind of things today. The Bible speaks of three types of people, basically, for the most part. Actually, Proverbs, if you kind of link into that area. I want to read some Proverbs to you, and then we're going to work through these three types of people. It should be a very interesting study, and I think we're going to learn a lot from it. So if you got a Bible, you want to go there. If not, you can just jot it down or whatever on your phone or whatever. We're going to be a little bit in Proverbs 24. And in Proverbs 24, and you know what's going on in Proverbs, right? Solomon is writing kind of a list of just great truths and principles and sayings to give to his kids so that they would live wisely and not foolishly in life. And so in the process of doing that, he says in Proverbs 24, he says, be not envious of evil men, nor desire to be with them, for their hearts devise violence, and their lips talk of trouble. So there's one that we know of. There's certain people that are just evil, right? And you probably have already run into circles with those people. And he's just saying, hey, that's a class of people. And Solomon is saying, listen, don't be envious of them because it looks like they're getting all the good stuff. Don't be envious of them. Don't desire to be with them. They're going to get you in trouble. For their hearts devise violence and their lips talk of trouble. Now, then he goes on and he says in verse 5, a wise man is full of strength, and a man of knowledge enhances his might. For by wise guidance you can wage your war, and in abundance of counselors there's a victory. So what's he saying there about that? He's saying, hey, listen, there's some wise people, and they thirst for knowledge. They want to gain insight. They learn. They figure things out. And when you get around those, and there's an abundance of them, you do less stupid things, right? In an abundance of counselors, there's wisdom. Right? Some of us have made stupid decisions because we listened to foolish friends, right? Man, when my oldest son was in college, they had a pack of friends, and they were really, really good guys individually. And they were very smart. All of them graduated, near the top of the class. But there were two distinctly ones. One was mine and one was another. And you put those two together, and the whole IQ dropped out to just imbecile. You know what I'm saying? And they would do the most foolish things imaginable. And I'm like, what is wrong with y'all? And then my middle son would come along, and when he was younger, now he flipped the switch too. At some point, all my kids just jumped into that deal. But Eric, my middle son, when they would go hang out, and Jared, and then his other buddy, if they get in trouble, I'd say, listen, if Eric says that's a bad idea, this would be a good time to listen to your little brother, because there was this air of caution on him for a season way back then, right? And so Eric would go, oh, no, we should do that. And I'm like, you should listen to your brother, right? And so that, because there's some wisdom in that kind of a concept. And then, so there are evil people in this world, and there are wise people in this world, and the Bible says there are foolish people in this world. In verse 7, he says, wisdom is too high for a fool. In the gate, he does not open his mouth. And so there's this concept of fool. Now, we're going to look at those in relation to friendships today, because I think it's helpful for us to see that. And let's just talk about the value of categorizing our friends in this way. All right? Without sounding judgmental, and I don't mean to, but there is a fact about being realistic. Let's be realistic about who we have in our circle. So, if we look at the first one, we're going to look at wise, because that's the best kind of friends to have. Wise, right? Proverbs 9, 8, and 9. Now, when we talk about wisdom, we're not talking about IQ. We're talking about character, right? Wisdom doesn't have so much to do with how intelligent, because you know a lot of intelligent people that can be foolish, right? Don't you? You know a lot of intelligent people that can be evil. So it's not an IQ thing, it's a character thing. Listen to what he says in Proverbs 9, 8, and 9. Do not reprove a scoffer, or he will hate you. Reprove a wise man, and he will love you. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be still wiser. Teach a righteous man, and he will increase in learning. Right? So here's the question, two things we ask ourselves. Would you right now consider yourself to be someone who's wise? Now, you got that. Don't shake your head one way or the other. Don't raise your hand. I don't want to know any of that about you. I just think it's important that you go, I'm not sure if that's where I am. Honest assessment, right? Are you wise? Because here's what a wise person, based on that text, we know that they appreciate those who speak truth into their lives, right? If you're the kind of guy that goes, look, I don't need your help. Hey, no, back off. No, I'll do this on my own. Can I tell you, you're probably not wise in that area? Because he says, reprove a wise man and he will love you, right? They appreciate the fact that somebody's going, hey, let me help you better yourself. Let me show you something maybe you didn't see. You know what is necessary in order to have that attitude and that character? Humility. The proud will rarely be wise. They may be intelligent. They may have a lot of knowledge. But humility, if you know you're the smartest person in the room, or you think you are, you ain't growing. Right? We all have to have that area of humility, right? They're growing. They're humble. They have a self-awareness that they need to grow. Right? Give instruction to a wise man, he will be wiser still. Teach a righteous man, he will increase in learning. So the wise have a self-awareness about. Have you ever been around people who have no self-awareness? You know what I'm talking about? I'm not looking at any of y'all. I'm just saying self-awareness is an important thing. Self-awareness is when you can read the room and read faces, and maybe you should throttle back a little bit, or maybe you should ask more questions and shut your mouth, or maybe right? I mean, or maybe you should give a hug, and whatever those things are. The wise are self-aware. Those are the kind of friends that you want. They're aware of your surroundings. They're aware of their surroundings. This is who they are. They're full of compassion, and they're selfless, and they have empathy toward others. They have that. That's key of the wise. And because they do those things, there's an air of responsibility about them. Right? You give a wise person a job, they'll do it. You give a fool a job, he'll figure a way around it. Right? I mean, that's just the way it is. They say if you took all the money away from everybody in the world, no matter how much they have now, and distributed evenly among everybody else, it would take but a few years, and everybody who had the money would have the money again, and everybody who didn't have the money wouldn't have the money anymore. Because there's this aspect of wisdom and foolishness, right? And so we need to understand that. And this would be the other thing I would tell you, that the wise person is being led by the Spirit. That's purely a biblical perspective. But you look at the qualities of love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. Those are all the characteristics of a wise person. That's because they chase after the Spirit. Those who chase after the flesh have all the qualities of the fool. And so I'm just giving you that for thought. But they're good companions, right? They're attractional people. You and me naturally are drawn, well, for the most part, the wise people. Some of us get drawn toward fools occasionally. But that's the wisdom aspect of things. And so you ask yourself, is my inner circle filled with wise people? This is where you should evaluate kind of what's going on in your world. Are you wise? And do you have those as your friends? The second one is the area of the fool. Now, the fool, according to Proverbs 1:7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction, right? So the fool hates wisdom and he hates discipline, right? Proverbs 26:3, look at this one. A whip for the horse, a bridle for the donkey, and a rod for the back of a fool, right? Now, just let that sink in, because what does that tell you? They're hard-headed. The fool rarely finds wisdom by watching other people. He finds wisdom because he went through a very harsh, hard, disciplinary time, right? Most of the time, the fool, you have to literally beat it into them, right? You know what I'm talking about? I don't mean your children. I just mean people. It's like you can lead that horse to water, but you can't make him drink. At some point, that's what goes on. And so now, in truth, most of us can relate to being a fool more than we want to admit, right? Haven't we all been foolish in that sense? Haven't we all thought we knew everything? Haven't we all been a little thick-headed? Haven't we all chosen something that wasn't necessarily noble and right and holy, right? So it's important that we understand that. Change is very slow for the fool. They don't change fast. Again, it's not IQ, it's character. They aren't growing. They love routine. They love staying the same. They're just good. They're just good where they are. They're the people when you see them, 20 years from now, you go, same old Joe, right? He's still acting the fool. That's what's going on there. And where the wise is humble, the fool is usually proud. They can't see their blind spots. They don't see it. Their problems are because of everybody else. The fool is going to wear that victim mentality like a badge of honor. And he's going to go, if I just had this, if I just had that, how many of you got friends like that? They lack self-awareness and they're irresponsible. They're irresponsible and they want you to pay for it, right? You got friends like that? Irresponsible? And they're trying to get you to fix their problem, right? Yeah, but sometimes family too. They're always trying to give their troubles to you, right? They're always needy. Hey, can I borrow your car? Mine's in the shop, broke down. Well, because you didn't change the oil, right? It's that kind of thing, and so you've got those deals. They're flesh driven, and because of that, there's not a lot of discipline in them. Not with their money, not with their time, not with their talent, not with their ability to take care of themselves, to eat good. Now, they're fun. They're some of the most fun people we have. And they're not necessarily toxic, but you got to be careful around them. Too much of a fool could be fatal, right? And some of you know what that's like. And so I'm just trying to work through some of these thoughts that we look at here as we see. Now we come to the evil. This one is the one that you should recognize, all right? Let's look at this as in Proverbs chapter 2. 12 through 15. These are good verses to just kind of jot down and know about, because a lot of people deal in this realm. And a lot of people, that you may find this even in your family. But listen to what he says in Proverbs 2, 12 through 15. And I'm going to go back to the verses before in a second. I just want to read this to you to define the fool. Declaring you from the way of evil, from men of perverted speech, who forsake the paths of uprightness, who walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice in doing evil and delight in the perverseness of evil, men whose paths are crooked and who are devious in their ways. Listen, we don't like to admit it, but there are evil people in this world. I don't mean just, bless their heart. No, they're evil. They're evil. And unless we call that evil, we're the one who's going to be the fool, right? And so that evil, sometimes it's knowingly, right? They're willfully so. Sometimes they're just a tool of Satan, and it's a demonic presence that's pushing that wickedness and that evil. But you better recognize what that is and determine between what's the fool and who are evil. Evil people are abusive. Just listen to this again. Delivering you from the way of evil. From it, they're perverted in their speech. Right? They're always lying, twisting it, talking about things that people shouldn't talk about. They forsake the paths of uprightness. Though this is the way that everybody should go, they want to go into the different path. They don't want to do what's right. They're looking for a shortcut. All of those things are taking place. They walk in ways of darkness. There's no light in them. There's no love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, gentleness. There's a sham. If they do it, it's a crock. They're playing a game. Who rejoice in doing evil and delight in the perverseness of evil. These are the kind of people that laugh at stuff that they shouldn't be laughing at. Men whose paths are crooked and who are devious in their way. Now, let me just talk about this without getting, really into everybody's business. But these are people who are abusive. Women who find themselves in these abusive relationships, and they're like, well, but he's a good man. Your face is distorted because he beat you. But man, if you can do that, you are a fool who's in a relationship with someone who's evil. That's just straight truth, right? And so it's important. These evil people, they're abusive. They can be abusive to you emotionally, physically, and mentally, every other way. But there's an abuse. These are what we use today, terms like gaslight. They make you believe that you're the problem, even though they're the problem. And they are so good at that you believe you're the problem. Those are not the kind of people that you want to go into 2022 with. They're also, for the most part, narcissistic, right? They're always perfect. It's all about them. This is who they are. I don't want to preach like a psychologist. I just want you to understand these terms. They're deceptive. You never see the real them. They're chameleon. They're going to be what you think they need you to see in order to get what they can out of you. Because these people give nothing in a relationship. They just take. That's all they do because they're evil people. They're manipulative. They're the biggest con artists on the planet, right? They can manipulate you into doing things, and they'll do whatever they need to do to manipulate you in that area. Keep your distance from those people, physically and emotionally. Sometimes you can't physically keep your distance from them because you may be married to them, or they may be living in your house, or you may be related. I get that. Just understand these things. And now, before you think, I've gone crazy on this, this is exactly what Paul instructed Timothy to do when it came to evil people in his day. And I'm not going to bore you with a lot of those things, but he says this to Timothy about certain evil people: have nothing to do with them, right? Avoid such as these. Stay away from them. In fact, he goes on to say in one instance, don't even eat with people like that. Have no fellowship with them. Have nothing to do with them. They're not for you. Right? Now, so having kind of given that as a background on the area of family, our friends, let's just think through some things as we close here. So where are you? Right? If you were to assess yourself, would you say you're more wise and more foolish? Would you say you're evil? If you're evil, I'd like to talk to you and tell you need to repent, right? I'm not looking at anybody evil in this room. I would know I'm not. But sometimes we can be foolish, and foolish sometimes acts like evil, doesn't it? And so let's just ask ourselves, where are we? Because if we get better, the difference between a fool and wise is humility and the Spirit of Christ. That's what it is. The proud are always going to be foolish. So if you think, man, I'm kind of acting the fool, well then you need to die to self. You need to confess your sins. You need to recognize where you're coming from, and you need to invite the Spirit of God to have every area of your life. And you should examine your life to let God make those changes. And you should decide that you're going to put away pride and you're going to seek help in those areas that you need help from. Right? That should happen. Now, if you're wise, well, that's a good thing. Stay right. Just keep being humble and keep growing. Make progress. You're a blessing to those around you, right? But determine where you are, and then this is my application to us. It's not necessarily a biblical thing, although I think I can make a case for the fact that relationships are in concentric circles. Jesus had his one, John the beloved. He had his three, Peter, James, and John, and then he had a larger circle that encompassed the apostles. And then his little larger encompassed the apostles and several women who helped him, and so many others that were just kind of in his tribe. And then he had those who were following him, kind of the crowd, and then he had the wicked on the outside, the Pharisees and all of those others that were out for harm. And so we too run in those circles. If you want a better life, then you need to evaluate where your friends are. Doesn't mean we don't have things to do with everybody. It's just that we put them in perspective. If I can, let me just give you a little help. In your inner circle is where you want the wise people. You should have no fools in that inner circle. Your closest people, there shouldn't be a fool in there. Not unless there's a huge labor of love on your part and you just want to exhaust yourself in that. That's not saying that some who are outside the circle and that are some foolish ones can't grow into that circle. But your inner circle, if you want to grow, should be filled with wise people like you. Because he who walks with the wise will be wise. That's what the scripture says. So I'm in my inner circle, I want to hang around people who are humble, who have an open, not a fixed mindset, but they're open. They know they need to learn and they want to grow, and who are maturing in their faith. And you see the fruit of the Spirit begin to pop in their life. I'm gonna walk through life with them, and I'm gonna enjoy that life. Now we spent 5 days with Jackson and Rachel this week. You learn a lot about people when you hang out with somebody for 5 days. The same hotel room, in a car for 9 hours, right? Standing in line when you're tired and hungry on rides, and somebody wants to do this, and you think this is stupid, but we'll do it anyway, right? All of that. I'm gonna tell you at the end of the week, and I mean this in all sincerity. Those are some people I never could get tired of, right? They're just good people. They're humble. Man, and you go to Disney World, you'll find out who the humble are and who the ones that aren't, right? Because when you get tired, the real you shows. And so what I found here was, man, I could do life with these people, right? And if that's your inner circle. Find those people that you go, man, even on their worst day, I like being around them. Lord has blessed me with some good friends like that. But I'm just telling you, evaluate those and bring them in. And intentionally maybe this year, just decide I'm going to spend a little more time with every one of them because they're valuable to you. They're the ones who are close enough to show you the blind spots, loving enough to help you walk through it, and graceful enough to be patient in the process. That's who you want. Now, the next circle, you may still have a level of wise friends, but maybe distance or time or whatever doesn't allow them into your world because you're just different areas. But that next circle, you can have some casual fools in there. You know what I mean by a casual fool? I mean, they're pretty good, but they can do, like me, I'm kind of a casual. I'm probably more than that. I can get in trouble like the rest of us. But understand that relationship, when you have wise friends, you're companions. When you have a fool for a friend, it's a parental relationship, right? You understand? You're going to always have to be the adult in the room because they're not. Right? And so if that wears you out, well, be careful about how much of those you let in. But I think it's important. Listen, at the age that I am now, I believe I've got a lot to give people. And there's some younger people I see making some foolish choices. And so I think, you know what? I'm going to spend time with them. I intentionally want them in my circle because, one, they're fun. And two, I think I can help. And there comes a point where you go, I was a dumb move, Randy, because you couldn't help them. You thought you could, but how stupid were you? And then you kind of back out of that relationship, right? I'm just honest evaluating with you today that this is where they are. But you got to be careful with the fools because they can be draining because they are needy and they aren't self-aware. And so sometimes you have to, hey, can you just shut up for a minute? Could you just shut up? Right? And so I'm trying to be polite. I just think it's important, though, that we look at friendships in this light. So I'm not saying avoid them. Jesus didn't avoid those people, right? But he understood who he was talking to. Those are the ones that he parented. And so understand, if you're going to have fools for friends, you're going to have to act the parent an awful lot. And then the last one is that last circle. Actually, it shouldn't even be a circle. If they're wicked people in your life, if they're evil people in your life, you need to keep your distance, right? Just keep your distance. If it's family, I know that's difficult. Keep your distance, right? That doesn't mean that you don't love them, It doesn't mean that they're not welcome. It just means that they're toxic, and you can't help. God in you can help, and if God calls you to do that, you should listen and do that. But you should make sure God's telling you to go do that, because that's a trap if you're not careful. That's a foothold for Satan to grab hold of and bring you down. That's why those people come in your life sometimes, for that reason. And so I would just remind you of those things, because they're dangerous, um, and they're toxic, and they will take you down. They will kill you. For me, I've had some friends like that, and I'm that sucker. I have brought so many evil people into my life over the course of my years, um, that I realized when I look back, I should have seen it. Everybody else did. I'm the only one that didn't see it, and it bit me way too hard in too many areas, and I lost a lot of things in so many ways by that. And so you have nothing to do with the evil, wicked people. So that's just my advice to you. If you're wise, find some wise folk, help the fools, but be careful and stay far away from the evil. And if you're a fool, find some wise folk and just hang on, right? And stay away from the fool. Listen, if you're a fool and you get with a fool, you know what happens, right? Yeah, you breed stupidity, because you're enabling each other. You're codependent. So see, if I'm a fool and Tammy's wise, I go, hey, I think we ought to do this. She's going to go, are you crazy? That's helpful. But if she's a fool and I'm a fool, I'm going, let's go do this. We're both going off that cliff. You understand? And so, listen, if you're a fool, you may love them, but from a distance. Get you some good wise folk and hang on for the ride. All right? And then just avoid the evil at all costs. Remember Pinocchio, when he was chasing after the guys with the mean guys, and they go start gambling and shooting pool and drinking, and he gets his donkey ears, he becomes an ass, right? That's what happens if you hang around the evil people. And it could happen to you if you're a fool and you hang around other fools. You could end up being an ass yourself. And so I'm, as bluntly as I can, we don't want that, right? And so that's the strangest message I've probably shared with you in a long time. But I think it's really needed. All right. Man, let's kind of. Thanks for titling my message. Let's just worship our way out of here, and then we're going to pray a little bit, and then we're going to eat. It's first Sunday supper on the second Sunday. Let's just enjoy this worship today.